As the Black Swan pandemic, known as SARS-CoV-2, threatens the normal functioning of governments and people alike, society as we know it has come to a standstill. However, one of the best tools in our arsenal to combat this pandemic is simple and readily available. Sodium stearate, commonly known as bath soap, has a unique molecular arrangement that allows it to combat and dissolve the coronavirus before it can enter and infect individuals. With the potential to save millions of lives, this begs the question, why stock up on toilet paper? SARS-CoV-2, better known as COVID-19, is a novel strain of coronavirus that is responsible for the 2019 to 2020 SARS pandemic. However, it is not an isolated incident as we had multiple pandemics in the last 50 years, including the original SARS epidemic of 2002-2004. So why has this pandemic led to such drastic measures when past epidemics like SARS, Ebola, and swine flu did not? The answer lies partly in the virus itself and partly in containment strategies and how they failed this time around. But before we can dive into that, we must explore what a virus even is and how it differs from bacteria, parasites, and other microbes. Microorganisms and viruses come in many shapes and sizes, namely small and smaller. The largest ones are typically bacteria and measure no more than 2 micrometers in diameter, 1/10 the size of a red blood cell. The smallest they can be are 1 micrometer in diameter. However, viruses are even smaller than that, ranging from 0.3 micrometers for smallpox to as small as 0.03 micrometers, aka for the rhinovirus. Compare this to the human skin cell, which averages 30 micrometers, and you could fit up to 1 billion rhinovirus copies inside it. COVID-19 is a novel strain of coronavirus that measures around 50 to 200 nanometers in diameter. In other words, it is 0.005 to 0.02 micrometers, making it around the same size as the rhinovirus and therefore a billion times smaller than a human skin cell. This small size makes the coronavirus less like a parasitic species infecting a host body and more like a deadly Amazon package inside Buckingham Palace, although one that would continue to self-replicate using all the backup generators until it exploded out of the palace. Queen and all. It also means that COVID-19 only has the bare minimum of material needed to infect a cell and self-replicate. As famed chemistry professor Polly Thordarson at New South Wales states, most viruses consist of 3 building blocks: RNA, proteins, and lipids. The RNA is the viral genetic material. It is very similar to DNA. The proteins have several roles, including breaking into the target cell, assisting with virus replication, and serving as key building blocks, like a brick in a house, in the whole virus structure. The lipids then form a coat around the virus, both for protection and to assist with its spread and cellular invasion. The RNA, proteins, and lipids self-assemble to form the virus. Critically, there are no strong covalent bonds holding these units together. Instead, the viral self-assembly is based on weak, non-covalent interactions between the proteins, RNA, and lipids. Together, these act together like a Velcro, so it is very hard to break up the self-assembled viral particle. Still, we can do it. Most viruses, due to their small size, are true nanoparticles, and as such have complex interactions with the surfaces they are on. Skin, steel, timber, fabric, paint, and porcelain are all very different surfaces. When you cough or sneeze, tiny droplets from our airways can fly up to 10 meters or 30 feet. These are thought to be the main coronavirus carriers. These tiny droplets end on surfaces and often dry out quickly, but the virus are still active, and what follows is dependent on how the virus interacts with the environment. In chemistry, similar molecules appear to interact more strongly with each other than dissimilar ones. Wood, fabric, and not to mention skin interact fairly strongly with the viruses. All of them are composed of organic macromolecules with carbon chain backbones. Contrast this with steel, porcelain, and various plastic products. The virus is held together by a combination of hydrogen bonds and hydrophilic or fat-like interactions. The surface of fibers or wood, for instance, can form a lot of hydrogen bonds with the virus. In contrast, steel, porcelain, or Teflon do not form a lot of hydrogen bonds with the virus, so the virus is not strongly bound to these surfaces. The virus is quite stable on these surfaces, whereas it doesn't stay active for as long on, say, fabric or wood. How long does the virus stay active? It depends. The SARS-CoV-2 coronavirus is thought to stay active on favorable surfaces for hours and possibly up to 8 days. Moisture, UV light, and heat all make the virus less stable. Human skin, on the other hand, is an ideal surface for a virus. It is organic, and proteins and fatty acids in the dead cells on the surface interact with the virus through both hydrogen bonds and the fat-like hydrophilic interactions. So when you touch a steel surface with a virus particle on it, it will stick to your skin and hence get transferred onto your hands, which is no bueno. This is why it's important to wash your hands. Water is a polar molecule and quite adhesive, so intermingle with and remove most if not all polar material from your hands when washed. However, this is not enough by itself to wash away the virus. This is because the virus, like bacteria and other human cells, is coated in a cell membrane that consists of a phospholipid bilayer. Each lipid or fatty acid consists of a hydrophilic head, which is the water, and a hydrophobic core, which makes up the inside of the bilipid layer. Because of this, the virus acts more like a drop of olive oil in water and is not mixed with it. Therefore, water by itself will not wash away the virus, and why we need a substance that can interact with both polar water and non-polar viral membranes. Enter sodium stearate, or its more common name, bath soap. Sodium stearate is a long-form organic molecule which consists of a carbon chain on one end and a conjugate carboxyl group attached to a sodium ion on the other. This makes the whole molecule weakly basic, with one end being strongly nonpolar and the other being polar. This allows it to bind quite strongly to the lipid bilayer and to water, allowing the virus to be washed away. However, sodium stearate goes beyond just washing away the virus. It also destroys it. This is because the lipid bilayer is the weakest part of the whole viral package and is chunked away by the soap and water, spilling its guts out as the lipid membrane dissolves, much like all oil does in soapy water. This exposes the naked RNA inside, which is cut up by the RNases, which are ever present in our natural habitats and inside us. This completely destroys the virus and prevents infection. However, there is a problem. Human skin cells, and indeed all cells and viruses, have a lipid bilayer. So why doesn't soap dissolve human skin cells the same way it dissolves COVID-19 and other viruses? The answer is twofold: pH and complexity. Human cells are much larger and much more tightly bound to each other than the viral membranes. This allows for them to resist being torn apart when exposed to a weak base like sodium stearate. However, these bonds are not immune to attack. A higher pH base, like bleach, can indeed tear apart these bonds, effectively dissolving human skin, which is why you should never wash your hands in bleach, or touch it with your bare hands at all. Please. So in summary, soap and water are effective measures against viruses because they tear their outer membrane apart, effectively dissolving them. This is due to soap's unique property of being polar on one end and non-polar on the other. This allows it to bind to both the viral membrane and to water. This is also why washing your hands with just water is ineffective. So wash your hands, kids, and make sure to use soap while you're at it.